Good evening, people. Welcome to the show. Thank you for being here with. We're super excited because there's a new remix of the first debut album from Aerosmith that we're gonna be discussing and reviewing and listening together. I think there's quite a few tidbits that we can, highlight for the fans and things to discover. But how are you doing today, Mr. Mango?
I'm doing really well. I mean, I can't believe in the last 6 months we've had two technically new Aerosmith releases, so it's been a good time.
Who would have thought that? Yeah, I was absolutely not waiting to get that much. I'm very, very happy about it, and thankfully I got a copy of the vinyls here. Thanks to the Aerosmith team for that, and I've been listening to their new remixes non-stop, and I think there's much to uncover.
Actually, I have a question, which it's not a question for you, it's a question for the band and the guys who produced it. Is that the original album, which came out in 73, 74, are the tracks exactly the same as what they mixed back then, or have they used any of the other takes, or have they mixed and matched other takes to come up with the remixes in 2026? Because when I hear the remix vinyl, it hits me like a truck. It's just like, something has come, bam. And when you listen to the old version, it's so much more subdued, so it really comes rocking straight. Because I don't know if they took the original track and remixed it, or if they were like, hey, you know what, why don't we take 4 of the beginning and take 3 of the solo, and did a full remix of all available material, or they just took the original or the released version and remixed that. So that's that.
Well, I think that they've used mostly the original tracks. For a while, let's remember that in 2007, the band thought that the label had lost the original multi-tracks, and that's why they re-recorded the songs of the first debut album for Guitar Hero. I'm not sure if they did the full album or just most of the songs. But apparently they've been found. They probably took the tapes, digitized them all, and I can only imagine the surprise and the pleasure that Steven and Joe got by going back to those original individual tracks, because there must be at least a couple of takes of everything plus the bonus material. So if I'm being honest, when I compare from memory the original album with the remix, it mostly, like 98% to me, it sounds
the same.
It sounds the same. I do have a couple of doubts of maybe a couple of parts, particularly with One Way Street, that I think Mama Kim, that they may have used a couple of.
And the other thing, actually, I didn't know, because I don't know this about the original album, that is every song one full live take.
Apparently, that's the idea behind the first album, you know? And
because when you hear all the unreleased material and the alternate full live takes, it sounds exactly like the released version. So
well, there's a few differences, of course.
I mean, it sounds, the quality and performance-wise, it sounds the same.
Quality is the same.
So because so listening to the alternate takes, to me, it sounds like this was one full playthrough, and so what they released back in 74 was one full playthrough. 73. Unlike the other, like Just Push Play, where God knows how many takes they did, and some person is in Boston and some person is in Hawaii recording their different things.
Yes, that's the impression that I get. Even if you look at the jackets of the new vinyls, you get the dates, and it was a single session, just a few hours, 5 hours to record, to practice, rehearse, and do a few takes. And probably, I'm guessing the last take is, or one of the last takes is the one that they used. And then a few days later, they had 1 or 2 sessions just to do overdubs. So I think it's 90% the real live take. I'm guessing Steven recorded his vocals later on, and just a few layers of overdubs, which is quite impressive. Because I think it's funny, when you think about the band usually going to the studio and spending months at a time to record an album. And now we can see clearly how much time they actually spent recording the first album. It's like 5 hours for this, 5 hours for that, 8 hours for Dream On.
It makes sense, because when you see that, the Beatles recorded this album in 4 days or whatever, and and it sounds so weird or like so unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you think about it, especially for a band's first album, when you have been working on these are the only songs you've ever worked on.
Yeah.
And Aerosmith, like we know, they went out and they toured and they honed their chops, as think as Steven calls it. So they were like completely fluent with all these songs. So all they had to
Yeah.
do was go in and perform each song maybe
And they've
5
mentioned it
times.
a bunch of times. I remember the liner notes for The Road Starts Here and the new liner notes for the vinyls. And they mentioned, and I think even Joe in his book is like they were so well rehearsed that he was even a little bit displeased with
Yeah.
how tight they were. I
Yeah.
think it's great.
Yeah,
You're
this is
saying.
a statement I made in our WhatsApp chat when we first heard the Paul Small version. Because
Yeah.
I said that the Paul Small version, especially because you can't really hear an audience, it sounds just like the album. Like it literally sounds just like the album. It's like on day one they recorded it perfectly, and on day two they recorded it exactly the same. But day two was a live version, and that's
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
spot on the band was. And you know what? I really think that they
Yeah.
practiced. They got these songs so perfect.
Yeah.
That's why even now, like I've been to a few shows where like they played a second encore, and Steven's always like, "What do you want to hear?" And I know for sure that when there's a second encore, there's a very high chance they'll play Mamakin if they
Yeah.
haven't, because I think they rehearsed it so many times in 1973 that they can play it live anytime.
Yeah, it's a safe song for them to
Yeah,
just
yeah,
throw on the
yeah.
go.
And they play all these songs so well all the time. But if you ask Steven to play Angel or Crazy, or
No,
like
I
even a
think
song like
he
Nine
remembers
Lives.
the melody. He probably remembers most of the chords.
And I don't know why we sing Steven, but same with Joe and Tom and Brad and Joey.
Yeah, yeah.
I think these songs just one day like most straightforward rock
Yeah,
songs
yeah.
without a lot of effects and things to mess you up. So it's easy to play, but second, I think they just practice the hell out of them. So
It's just this
it's
style
in
is
there
very
permanently.
Aerosmith, and they've been playing it for 50 years plus. So I no wonder why those songs are so into their system.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
muscle memory at this time.
Yeah, exactly.
But okay, what were your first impressions of the remix? I mean, there's also a remaster, but we're really focusing on the remix just because
Yes.
it's
Yeah,
what's
exactly.
sounding
I wanted
more
to say that
newer.
I was actually going to ask you even that
Yeah.
is there any point listening to the remaster because it sounds just like the original?
Yeah, it's the original.
Unless you hear it through headphones very carefully.
Yeah.
I didn't hear any difference.
My understanding is that the remaster is just taking the original stereo recording that they did in the original master from 1973, and they expand it a little bit more, to maximize the wave, and they may do a little bit of EQ to match the rest of the album, but
Yeah.
overall it's the same mix, it's the same
Yeah.
thing that we've heard a million times.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit better, but overall it shouldn't
Yeah.
change more. I think there is, let's not delve too much time listening to the original.
Yeah.
But
Actually, my question to you is
yes,
now that we have the remix, will you ever listen to the remaster or the original?
I think I'll only go back as a curiosity, something to do.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe in 20 years there's gonna be a new remix, or something like that.
Yesterday, while I was working, I actually went and I was like, play the remaster.
Yeah.
Just the first 15 seconds.
Yeah.
Play the remaster, play the remix of every song.
Let's do that for Make It, the opening track, which goes.
Yeah.
Good evening, people. Welcome to the show. Anyways,
There's something here I want you
all to know. Because I think you can definitely tell it highlights the difference, And I think the main thing here is that we're gonna be able to listen to the lower end of the guitars and the top end of the guitars, and the drums are just way more present and thicker, nicer. It highlights Joey's contribution to the record for sure. So I'll play the first 10 seconds of Make It from the remaster, and then we can listen to the rest from the remix, and it's gonna be telling. It's gonna be obvious, I think.
Yeah.
Let's go. And I'm gonna go directly there
Play the
and
remix.
play the remix.
When you were playing this, my head was saying, "Oh, play the remix."
Just Ooh, yeah. Anyways, what I was saying is when I heard this as soon as it was released, my first impression was like, oh my god, Make It Now sounds like a fucking gun machine, you know, like
Yeah.
and yeah, exactly. It's not just louder, it's just
Yeah.
fuller.
I think,
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys watching this have seen Gonzo and I and a few other Aerosmith friends have recorded a few things. And whenever we're mixing them, Gonzo is always the guy who organizes everything. And so he ends up mixing everything. And I always tell him, you need to mix everything louder, put more gain on the guitars, boost the volume of the snare. And so I think that this is the way I would have told Adrian Barber. It was Adrian Barber, right, who produced it back in 73.
Yeah.
This is the way I would have told him.
But
to
just
mix
imagine
it.
the limitations of the technology back then, of course, and the time.
yeah,
You know, Aerosmith was a new band. He was like probably
It sounds, yeah.
looking for a paycheck. Like,
Throwaway. He was just,
exactly, yeah.
He was just in and out doing a job, I think. But this is the remix that this album deserves.
Yes, and everything is just popping. You know, I think now it's even clearer who is playing what. You know, like the original. Of course, I know roughly.
Yeah.
Joe is playing this, Brad's
Yeah.
playing that.
Yeah.
But now here, I think it's more obvious.
Yeah. My two comments, and these are both based off things that the guy said in Walk This Way, the autobiography, is that Steven would always complain that Joe's amps were
too
always
loud.
just way too loud. My ears are fucking bleeding.
Yeah.
And when I heard the first album, like when you hear the original album, you don't get that feeling that the amps are that loud, that these Marshalls, 100-watt Marshalls without
It
without a
sounds-
master volume are that loud. But now on the remix, you can feel that.
Yeah,
And the other
yeah.
thing is Joey said that like Steven made me hold the drumstick the other way around, so I was
Yeah,
hitting it with the butt,
to-
and like he used to massage my legs so that I could like really pound on the bass drum. And again, that all that was lost in the original release, but you really hear all that on the
And
remix.
part of the guitar sound, it's borderline clean at times, you know. So even though it's respecting the real original tone and
Yeah.
style of the sound, it
Yeah,
kind of
it's just
pops
heavy.
more.
Yeah,
It's heavier, and especially during the guitar solos,
You can
it
feel the
feels-
speaker is moving the air.
Yeah, and even in a few solos, especially with the bonus materials, I can hear that the speakers, the amps that Joe was using were about to start bleeding, you know, because it was like way too loud. All right, do we want to keep listening to the track or just
Yeah.
start jumping around?
Whatever you want.
Let's do, the verse.
What's
and-
another track where you hear the difference massively?
I think all of them, but I'll keep going with the verse and the chorus.
Good evening, people. Welcome to the show. Got something here I want you all to know. Bring on primal scream. Think of what it's gonna take to make your dreams make it. No, break it. I say make it. No, break it. Don't do that. You feel like the world's coming down on you. You know that history.
Maybe it's a good opportunity to talk about the alternate versions directly now from the bonus material.
Actually, you know what? Let's talk more about that stuff. The new stuff, the live version, the alternate version, the
Yeah.
bass jelly jam, and the joint at the hip.
Yeah, and I think we can take it in order because it's Make It. So we have two different versions: the rehearsal take of Make It, which, well, I think is very interesting. It's not perfect. You can tell that it's a rehearsal. Steven is way looser on his attention to lyrics.
And there's one take where it feels like it was a rehearsal because Steven isn't
was.
singing. He sings the good evening, like he sings like
Yeah,
he
he's
doesn't
not too
really mean
worried.
it.
He's not too worried about messing it up. They're just going through a song. But there's a couple of different arrangements that I think are interesting. A couple of things to notice here. Let's just go with it. Well, a couple of things to say. Steven highlights in the liner notes that he loves the idea of keeping those intro just in the studio moments, you know, a little bits of talking here and there.
Yeah.
And I think it's great. It gives it a real rehearsal
Feeling of being in the room with
in
the
the
band.
room with the band, indeed. This take feels less tidy for sure. You know, it's like it's not they're messing it up, but they are, you know, not as tight as the final version. And if we hear what Steven is doing there, like woo, that's something that I'm guessing he had in the back of his mind for the longest time, and that he reintroduced in the re-recorded version that he did for Guitar Hero in 2007, if you remember. So very interesting that it's still there. Let's keep going for a little bit of the first verse, that it's the main difference.
Good evening, brother, fantasism, bro. Got something here, want you all to know.
So I don't know if you agree with me. While I think that arrangement of just staying there like so it's lower, drums are stopping.
To the show.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, and it gives it an interesting feel. It could work if they kept that only once, but they do it all through the take, so I think it's a little bit too much of a start and stop. And at the same time, part of what I love about Make It is that it's really hyping you up, like if you were at the first show and you're like, okay, good evening, people, welcome to the show. Let's keep it going. Bam, 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 bam. Anyways.
Yeah. Also, I think because we've heard that version for so many years, to hear the slowed down, you know, like the mellowed version, it feels wrong. But maybe if that was the only version we'd ever heard, then we'd be like, no, the fast version is too much in your face.
True.
It's yeah.
All right. And
It's
then
the
we
bias we'll always have.
and then we have this Make It alternate version, which is kind of a more advanced rehearsal. Let's listen to the first verse, I think.
Don't break it, take two.
Take two. So maybe they were serious by now. I like Brad's guitar tone there.
Good evening, brother, fantasism, bro. Got
Nothing.
something here, want you all to know. When laughing people bring them crowns ring. You got to know what it's gonna take to make your dream make it. Don't break it. I said make it.
You know what? Because it sounds less tidy, I'm wondering if these takes were just part of the band,
The
of
rehearsal
course.
process.
Yeah, rehearsal in studio, but like take one, and the producer was like, okay, maybe let me move the microphone over here. Okay, take two. Okay, maybe a little bit more over there, because they
So they
start.
can go back at the end of the day
Yeah.
and listen to the takes and figure out what
Yeah, but
worked.
it feels to me like the producer were still figuring out the best angles
Yeah.
for.
I have a question for you. So you
Yes.
said you like Brad Stone. Now,
Yeah.
I don't know which guitarist we're hearing in which headphone. And you know why I asked this question?
Yes.
Because for the early albums, we heard the stereo from Joey's point of view.
Oh.
Joe was in the left and Brad was in the right. But at some point in the Geffen era, they switched it around to the audience point of view, that we heard Joe in the right and Brad in the left.
Well, I'm not sure. And
So
I
would
can't
think
even
that, you know, when the song
remember.
starts, when it starts, I would think that Joe is playing that.
I feel like it's Brad, maybe because let me check.
You know, what we should do, we should listen to Dream On and figure
Yeah.
out.
So on Tremon, I have a comment about that because there's exactly that. You know, there's a couple
Yeah.
of sections that we know for a fact that Brad plays
Yeah.
all the time live.
Because all the Aerosmith fans will know that Brad plays all those solos at the end. So
But
we
what
should
what
see
if it
which
was?
year
But
Brad
what
is
if
in.
it was Joe in the studio, but just
Yeah,
Brad took
yeah,
over?
yeah,
You know, who knows?
yeah.
Anyways, I wanted to highlight one final thing that I love about "Make It" from the remix, and let me try to find it here. That part, bam, 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 bitty, 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 bitty. I've never heard that.
Tom?
Yeah, Tom doing that. I don't know. Bam, bam, bam. I've never heard Tom doing that with the finger so fast, going exactly with Joey's drumming, and I don't know, just something different that I was able to. Bitty, 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 bitty. All right, let's maybe talk about somebody. And let's
Who?
play it. Somebody who? That's Joey.
That's Steven.
Yeah. That's Joe.
I need a lady not turned by the shade and need someone to be close to. Somebody goes in that somebody knows it. Help me see my whole way through.
Well, great riff for starters. And second thing, I immediately.
And if it was Joe, it was in this year, the right year.
Oh, I wasn't paying attention. I was just enjoying it. But good point. And the second thing that comes to my mind is that the backing vocals are way easier to recognize.
And just overall comment on the entire remix is that all the lyrics are much easier to hear and understand.
Yes, everything is just clearer in the mix and more present. It's incredible that they are able to.
So good job, whoever did the remix.
Well done, Zach. I know his last name. Let me find it.
It is Adrian Barber. Engineering by Adrian Barber. Produced by Adrian Barber. We should do a comparison. Let's
Zach Servini. Great job, Zach Servini. You really were able to, do justice to the Aerosmith that we were meant to hear in 1973. Thank you, sir. So we were talking about something, great riff, and we can listen to
somebody.
everything. What did I say?
Something in the way he moves.
Oh, man. And what am I even? Yeah, that's okay. And we can listen to the background vocals a little bit more clearly. So.
Someone to share the load.
little bit too loud.
To walk the road and live
Live.
Oh, check this out. Listen to Brad. See? Did he mess up there?
I think so.
Right? One more time, just to make sure. Sorry, Brad. Right?
I think he played
he
like
played-
a full major chord instead of the power chord.
He played more. He left a couple
he
of
played
strings ringing,
Things. Yeah.
something like that. But if I don't know, I think it's just more noticeable now.
Yeah.
He must
Was
be
that
pissed
the
off.
full? Was that the?
This is the
official
remix.
track?
The
Yeah,
remix.
but it's not a rehearsal. It is the
There's no rehearsal of somebody.
of somebody.
I
Yeah,
only have Make It and Write Me.
somebody.
All right.
I want you to say me somebody.
Anything else you want to comment on somebody? What I think is also interesting is that this song was written before 1971 because it's also included in The Road Starts Here.
And I think the credit is Steven only on this song, right?
I think so. Steven idea from Priest 71, developed through rehearsals and played live, recorded October 6, 1972. Blues-driven track. Anyways. So let's move to the big ballad and the highlight, I think, maybe of the album. A couple of things to highlight here that I've been able to find. So that's Dream On, probably the song that has been with Steven the longest. He started writing it when he was a teenager, a kid sitting under his father's piano, and developed the first verse probably 14, 15 years old. And 1971, we have this version from The Road Starts Here, which has an unfinished second verse. And the liner notes mention that Steven knew that he had to rewrite those lyrics that I think are sing with me this mournful death. Boom. Anyways. Yeah, so it sounds like a few weeks before they went back to not back to record the debut album, he just then finished the lyrics. So that's why we got here. Here a little bit of the I don't know if you can hear, but there's obviously the piano sound, but you can also hear the mic and the sound of the keys. A little bit of the...
That's something I actually really like about Nine Lives, is that in some songs you can hear the bass pedal squeaking.
Yeah.
And that's a very cool sound, to hear the sound of the instruments rather than...
And of the movement. Yeah.
Yeah, movement of the bass pedal and just those things, organic sounds.
The liner notes for the album, for the new remix, say that Steven was brought down to tears while listening to the remix. I can only imagine, it's been 50 plus years, and then you are able to find the tracks that you thought were lost.
The other day, so two things. One, listening to it now, because I never listened to it with these over-ear headphones. Everything seems so clear and full. It's amazing. But listening to Dream On the other day, I was in my workshop and I had it really loud on the speaker, and it sounds so powerful compared with the version we have been hearing all these years. It really did sound like it didn't sound like a ballad or a power ballad. It just sounded like a rock song, which was just a slow rock song, but hard hitting.
Indeed. Let me think about just the remix and anything that I can think about highlighting here. I think it sounds super clean. I love the presence of every instrument. Steven is in front of you, and you can hear more details. And I think there's some more extra reverb happening that is more present in a way. And they've been selective with that. There's something that I've noticed during the guitar solo that I think maybe it's not a mistake, but maybe it's something that they've chosen to leave in there. It sounds to me like Steven, during the guitar solo, he's like biting his nails and
let's hear it.
Or
speak the headphones on now.
Or it's maybe it's Joey with a hi-hat. I'm not super sure. Let me try to find the solo. See? I know it could be just
It could be tape sounds, but knowing Steven, it could very well be.
It's like, come on, Joe, hurry up.
It's not like Joe really wanted to play this solo. Remember, this is the solo that would make Elisa go to the toilet.
Oh, I didn't remember that, but it must be on the books.
They used to call this she and Joe used to call this the bathroom song.
Well, they would make Steven back in the day. They would make fun of Steven for just writing this slower song. But anyways, we like the song, Steven. Thank you. Maybe you
And
know.
it still feels good.
Yeah.
As
Oh
Steven
well.
says.
Let's go to this controversial section, I guess.
Dream on, dream on, dream on, dream the top dream come true. Dream on, dream on, dream on, dream until your dream come true. Dream on.
So it's clearly
Yeah.
coming through the right speaker.
Yeah. And if you connect the dots, then
Yeah.
Joe is playing the solo. But we know that
Sure.
live Brad plays the solo.
Yeah.
So it's very confusing.
But I can't think of any song that it was originally a solo from Brad or Joe, and the other one was like, "Oh, sure, you take it." No, well, I guess the only thing that I can
But
think
you know
of.
what? If you watch if you watch the you speak, then I'll say what I have to say.
Well, Joe clearly does the studio version of the solo in Whoa, 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 Freedom Fighter.
Freedom Fighter.
But he can't sing.
It's hard for him to do the whoa, whoa, whoa and play the solo.
Yeah,
But
so
what
Brad
I was going to
does.
say is that if you see the live version of this song that they did
Yeah.
on the television show, I forgot, Countdown or whatever. That,
Midnight Special.
The first Midnight Special,
Yeah,
yeah.
1974.
In that, I'm pretty sure Joe plays the solo in that.
I will have to have a look. I'm not sure.
Yeah, he's wearing like this small purple waistcoat jacket.
I thought it was
I'm
blue,
pretty
but
sure he plays
yeah.
the solo.
Could be.
Yeah,
Could be. Well,
yeah.
who knows? I mean, he has the capability. It's just that
Yeah,
we're not used
yeah.
to that.
Dream until your dream come true.
And then
Yeah.
during the scream, I think they've faded it away and added more of the reverb. So have a look.
Dream on, dream on, dream on, dream on, dream on, dream on.
So it's like,
We're getting the wet signal and less of the dry signal.
yeah, I think the original signal is going down and the reverb is going up. So very interesting. All right. Let's jump onto One Way Street, one of my favorite songs ever. I've been
There's no coming back to Dream On after we go down this one-way street.
funny. And what I mean is, I don't know, it's such a rare song to hear live, and I was able to hear it live on my second show ever in Peru. And it's a longer song, lots of jamming, very bluesy. It started as a piano song. I didn't know that for some reason, but I remember seeing some video of Steven in the 80s playing it on the piano. Guess it makes sense. You can hear more of the piano on the remix for sure. And they, on the liner notes, they're talking about the band, how much time they spent doing it and adding more arrangements. And I think it's very telling. We don't get songs with that many.
Your comment was that, I can't believe they spend more time on One Way Street than they did on Dream On.
Yeah, I mean, I just
Yeah.
assume because
But it
Dream On
makes
is,
sense.
is
And
yes and no.
yeah,
Like
Dream On is straightforward, I guess.
but you need to
compared
take care
with
of the
One Way Street.
details, you need to be very clean and steady.
Yeah.
And they did it in
Yeah.
5.5 hours.
But,
And
but
One
the
Way Street,
structure
8
of
hours.
One Way Street is more complicated.
Yeah, for the band.
And that's why whenever, like, I've heard them play live as well on the Japanese tour.
Oh, there you go. 20.
But,
yeah, that's the same tour that I saw
but-
them played. Yeah, sorry, go.
But many times when they play live, especially because they don't play it show after show after show, it'll be like,
Yeah.
once in a blue moon they played it. And like multiple times I've heard Steven ask Joe and Brad, hey, do you guys remember the chords? So you know that the song is complicated. It's not something you can just play with muscle memory.
I agree. And well, let's have a listen. But I think it's very cool that they've kept some of that improvised ad-lib, flamboyant intro. Just, I don't know if he wrote it or he was just going with it. stereo reverb.
Hmm.
Harmonica. You know what? Well, of course, I love how it's sounding, but my first thought when I heard this version was, did they use a different vocal take for this first part of the verse? And I've been thinking about it since I heard it, but let's try to answer that and play the original version to see if we can tell any difference in the vocals. So here we're going with the remaster.
Hey, look at yonder, what's that I see? Ain't that old bogus gonna come and after me? I thought you told her I was out of town.
It's so
Go
telling.
back and play the remix.
Yeah, I'm going there, but it's so telling that it just sounds fuller now.
Hey, look at yonder, what's that I see? Ain't that old bogus gonna come and after me?
It's the same take.
I think it's the same.
I was out of town. I wonder how she know that was hanging around. Say,
Listen, baby, don't go wasting your time.
keep it coming round, you'll hear the same old line. You got 1,000 boys, you say you need 'em. You take what's good for you and I take my freedom. 'Cause lately, it's been so high up making ends meet.
That's new, right? The harmonica there.
I can't hear you.
I think they've kept that part of the. Sorry. Okay, one more time. I think that part is new, where they keep the harmonica in the chorus.
In the verse.
No, in the
In the
chorus.
chorus, yeah.
And there in the verse. So this part here. That part there. Sorry.
Yes.
More detail there on the guitars, and then I think they've also added or re-established a little bit of harmonica on the second verse.
I thought I knew her, a cagey lady. How could my sunshine be so damn shady? She say she loved to talk, a conversation, but I'm the one that makes the situation. It's one-way city, I mean, I thought I knew. It's such a pity, honey, I'm dancing for you because lately it's been so high.
And you can hear the piano there, and yeah, I think it's great. But we don't want to stay here forever. Let's keep going with Mama King, unless you want to highlight something else
No.
from
That's
Yeah.
great.
Mama King. I guess this can be considered a new single, promotional single, and the first release of the box set. And I think they did a really good job. I like that they've kept the intro, King to take 5, I think Steven says, and then you can hear some of the stomping and some of the clapping, Steven trying to keep the band on tempo.
This song, I think, you hear the least difference because they probably mixed it the hardest back in '73. So you don't hear as much of a jump in
from the
in
classic.
the loudness and the aggression
Yeah.
and the
I do feel more
boost,
presence on the drums, especially when it starts. And there's more separation, I feel like, in the guitars and the sax, because I'm almost sure that during the guitar solo there's actually 2 layers, 2 different harmonies of saxophone, and 1 or 2 guitar solos. So it's a lot happening at the same time.
and actually the sax is turned up, especially in the "Keep in Touch with Mama King."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I heard a few people on Facebook saying that they don't like it, but I think it's just that you aren't used to it. I think it sounds good.
I think it's both of those things. You're not used to it, and I don't know. Let's have a listen. I can feel
Yeah.
I'm not sure, you know, we're biased,
Yeah.
of course, but I feel
Let's do two comparisons. One, let's do the intro, and then let's do this chorus bit.
on the solo, yeah.
Remaster remix.
Take 5. And let's go to the solo if I can find it.
Keep on talking, mama, again. Mama, you're gonna be living out your fantasy. Sleeping and smoking again.
You know, I've always thought that the studio version's solo is way too,
Too short.
yeah, it's only two.
Also, another thing I've noticed is I always thought the live version, the solo was too long.
Well, sometimes live they take it like forever, you know.
and they don't know when they're gonna come out of it. So Steven is like 1,
Two. And sometimes even then they mess it up, but yeah.
But the other thing I was gonna say is that you can hear
Yeah.
a lot more of Joey hitting the hi-hat or someone clapping to keep the beat.
During the
All
solo.
those
Oh,
things they removed all these
Yeah.
cues
Those are muted
from the original version.
So
but
I
you
think
hear
it's
all those
Steven
cues
going
in-
there on the back vocals. Just
Even
like-
at the beginning, I think you can hear somebody clapping or Joey on the hi-hat.
it's clapping or stomping on the floor. Yeah. All right. Shall we move on?
Yes.
Okay.
Moving out.
No, it's actually Write Me a Letter.
Moving on to moving out.
You know, for the longest time, I thought Write Me a Letter was a cover for some reason. And I think it's because even in the original, it just sounds different. And I think it's the miking of the drums.
It's an old-fashioned sounding song.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they did it on purpose or if it was they just placed the microphones differently on the studio. But it sounds like the mics are farther away. The snare drum, I don't know, something's going on. It sounds like it's a stereo. I'm not sure.
Play the remix.
Very separate, the drums.
And it's like the guitar is out of phase or something.
Yeah, I think it's just they're just panning out the drums as much as they can, you know, 100% for both sides. So it's just different than the rest of the album.
Maybe just trying something new. It's a good song. I really like it.
I like it.
I
don't think it's the strongest in the album.
Write it today.
Um,
I'm going
away.
But I'll never, 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 never get so far behind. But I've been so many places, hiding from the wind and the rain. But you can write me a letter for to save me from going insane. I said,
You know what? In this version, in this part, there's 3 different vocal takes. So one is the other one is ooh, and the third one is So there's humming, there's oohs, and there's screaming. You know, so all happening at the same time.
Yeah. Was you been so
Yes.
the thing is that these sound so similar to live versions I've heard of these songs, and all the live versions are from around the same time as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this indeed sounds like a live take with Steven doing an extra vocal layer. And we do have a
live version. as a
an
bonus track.
alternate take.
Yeah.
So let's have a listen.
Well, nothing I can see that ever made me wanna be without her. She gone to me. Well, nothing I can see that ever made me wanna be without her. She gone to me.
That's a great start.
That's right.
Okay, I think that's a great start, but it takes away the cool drum fill that Joy has on the final version.
Yeah.
And just because
Also,
yeah,
I mean, I think they used to open with this song in a few
really,
shows.
maybe
Yeah.
in
yeah,
the early
yeah,
days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe it was one of the first songs that they put together. Let me see if I have anything there in my notes. Developed across 1971 from an earlier version
I
called
have to
Bite
look
Me.
at my bootlegs
Bite
to see
Me.
which show I'm talking about.
It must be.
Yeah.
And it was developed through rehearsals until the rhythm section shifted. Blah, blah, blah.
Bite Me would be a good name.
Write Me, Bite Me. It was just probably
Yeah. Love at
tongue in
first
cheek.
bite.
Yeah. Recorded September 25th and 26th, 1972. So it was
is your
recorded on
birthday.
my birthday. Yeah. Just a bunch of years earlier. Okay, let's listen to this ending section because I think it's more evident here that Steven is doing so it's an alternate take because it's not just a single live take. They've added a little bit of overdubs and there's several vocals from Steven. But while in the final version you have the ooh and the and the here we only get the use.
I think it's there, but it's just so soft that you can't hear it.
Maybe they've mixed it differently.
Yeah.
But anyways, that was the alternate.
The original remaster.
No, that's the alternate
or the
version.
alternate mix.
Okay, we're coming close to the end. We have Moving Out, the first song Steven and Joe wrote together as a partnership, and apparently written in a waterbed while they were smoking a joint. Cool stories. They seem to love telling that story. They said it a bunch of times.
The first song that Joe and I ever heard. Sitting in what is the roadie's name? Mark something.
Roadie, I don't know what roadie you're talking about.
It was his waterbed. The guy who used to drive the van.
Okay.
Who's bald as a neg at 18.
I didn't know that story about Mama King. I was surprised when I saw that beat from Brad in that TV show.
Working for your daddy's sister. His daddy is Steven Tyler.
Anyway, so we get this little bit of an Easter egg intro for Moving Out. And when we heard that...
So both of us, we heard
Yes.
this independently and we were like, hey, did we hear that? It sounds just like...
Yeah. So we both thought...
just like...
It sounds just like
looks
dude.
like a lady.
Looks like a lady. But now...
It's like this idea was there in Joe's head back there. I mean, it's not such a sophisticated idea, but just the rhythm at which those chords are played.
Huh? Sorry?
I was just saying it's not such a sophisticated idea, but it's just the rhythm, just the way those three chords.
But I was thinking because apparently Woman of the World was also recorded during those sessions. So it could be that section that goes... So let's...
I think it was just Joe doodling, and those are just some notes which come naturally to him.
Yeah, maybe.
Who's laughing?
Steven.
we all live on the edge of town. Where we all live, ain't a soul around. People starting coming, all we do is just a grin. Said we gotta move it out, cause city's moving in. I said we gotta move it out, cause city's moving in.
So, yeah, I love listening to the little bits and pieces that are happening in the studio. And I think it's immediately telling that you can hear more of the lower end on the kick drum there, like boom, boom, boom. And I'm just going to jump through the song and you can stop me if you want to hear something else. It's more echo.
Yeah, what is this? You know, the funny thing is, I was listening to this song while I was in the
That's new,
warehouse,
right?
and I was like, "What's that sound?" I was like, "Where's that sound coming
I
from?"
think it's great. It's clearly Steven just going.
and it only happens that one time or maybe two times.
I think that's just it. But I don't think I had noticed that. If maybe
I
it
thought
was
someone was
removed.
using, like, you know, a circular
Yeah.
saw or something
Cool,
angled.
interesting
Right.
background sound. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's just go to the ending because I think it's. I've always loved how Joe starts the song with a.
Double stops.
Yeah, but at the end, Brad takes that part and Joe does the. You know what I mean?
Play it again. Let's listen to it.
So Joe is playing this part here at the beginning. So that's Joe. But at the very end, so this is Brad.
Where we all live, ain't a soul around. Stop coming on and do just a grin. Said we gotta move it out, cause city's moving in. I said we gotta move it out, cause city's moving in.
You know what I mean? So they switch it over, and I think and it's
Question?
both riff.
Do
being
we
played
have
at the
an
same time.
alternate take of this song on Pandora's Box?
Yes, but
With something else that plays directly after at the end of the song? I think we do.
yes, it's like an extended outro. Boom, dun, 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 dun,
Or like they
dun,
go
dun,
straight
dun.
into Walk in the Dog or something. Or it was like the leftover on the tape.
I can probably find it if you give me a second.
Yeah. Let's listen to that. Yeah, how does it
Fuck.
differ?
Music, Aerosmith, Pandora's Box, 91. Ooh, which disc would that be on? First disc? Yeah, moving out alternate take. Yeah, here we go.
It is, yeah. See, I wonder what take it is.
Always. Come on.
Just the end.
So it sounds different.
Much more compressed sounding.
More distortion on the guitars.
And there's wah. Like there's a wah on the whole track.
Yeah.
Go to the end.
It's tiny a little bit
Compression.
but
wah, I don't
it's
know what it is.
slightly slower, I feel like.
Nobody knows that, nobody goes there, nobody shows that. You can't find it. Round, Captain Seven Band, nowhere to go. We all live on the edge of town, where we all live, ain't a soul around. Starting coming, all we do is just grin. We gotta move it out, cause the city's moving in. I said we gotta move it out, cause the city's moving in. That's what we do.
That's that kind of
It
ending
sounds like they recorded over the tape, and then it's just whatever was on the tape before.
Yeah, but I think that's interesting because first of all, it's a different riff that wasn't used in the song. And you know that kind of idea of ending the song and then kind of starting again is very much like the Beatles, right? They do that with Helter
Yeah,
Skelter.
I don't know.
think.
I don't know what it was. I think like they recorded over the tape,
Yeah.
and the song ended, but what they recorded before that is what played on.
But what was that? It's
I don't
in the
know.
same key.
To me, it sounds like just jamming.
Yeah, but it's just more to the song than never was, an
Yeah.
alternate thing. All right, so we talked about moving out, and now we have to finish the album with Walking the Dig.
Thick as a dig. Love me like a bird dig. We hear this a lot more.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is that on the original? Because I know he plays that
I
on
think it's
on the
there.
Unplugged.
Oh, in the live versions it's there. I don't know if it's on the
Sometimes.
original. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go back and listen to the remaster.
Remaster.
Doom, doom. This song has the best starting. And actually, this is a song that they've used as an opener as well a lot.
This is the remaster. Oh,
It's
it is
there,
there. But barely, not as present and clean. Lots of harmonics there. Okay.
Mary Mac, dressed in black.
Silver buttons up and down her back. I know mistletoe. She broke a needle, now she can't sew walking the door. I'm just a walking your door. Well, if you don't know how to do it, I'll show you how to walk the door.
Yeah. Even though I love this song, I know it's a cover and they kind of made it their own with, doing a different version. They made their cover on top of the Stones version, I guess, instead of the
But
original
this Aerosmith's version is way better than the Stones
one.
version.
Way better. But even though I like it, I'm just puzzled that they would choose to use this song instead of Woman of the World, which is an original, and they, at least that
Maybe
we
they
know
hadn't
of.
finished it up. Or maybe they're like, hey, we need to keep one really good song for our next album. Otherwise, we'll have to do more covers.
Yeah, but they left behind Major Barbara, Women of the World, and that incredible Join at the Hip Jam, so
And also,
Harmonica Jam
there's
Jelly.
another On the Road Again. Was that a
I'm
song
not sure
considered for this album?
I mean, that's a cover, first of all. That it's
Is it?
It is. It is.
Are you sure?
I'm
I thought it was an
100%.
Aerosmith song.
It's not. It's if
believe
you look at the credits on Pandora's Box, it
Yeah.
says unknown, but then we found who wrote the song. I just don't remember.
Okay. Okay.
But it is a cover. But apparently that comes from a rehearsal from 1971, not the first album sessions. I'm on the road again.
Yeah, that's a good song.
It is-
It always just sounded like an Aerosmith song to me.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Mm.
But anyway, so I just feel puzzled that they would choose to do a cover. Well, I guess it's cool to have a cover in your album. But nothing else for me to say about the main album part of the remixes.
It's such a great album, short album, perfect album.
Let's just play the very ending of Walking the Dig.
How to walk the dog. And don't know how to do it. Show you how to walk the dog.
That very ending. Show to walk out door. I think that part is new. All right, and with that we're done with the
I want to
main
say
album.
something.
Yeah, go for it.
So
Conclusions.
many of your viewers will know, and if they don't, when the first pressing of this album came out, then
Yes.
they put a typo in and they wrote walk in the dig instead of walk in the dog, which is why Gonzo was making these jokes. But this was a perfect opportunity for Aerosmith management to do 100 re-release of this new version.
yeah,
and
only
put
100
Walk in the
version
Dig
with
on
Walk
there,
in the Dig there.
and then be like, hey, 100 people out there could collect
Funny,
the one
funny,
with the
funny.
typo.
Sign with Steven's signature. That would be cool. Yeah, maybe on the next remix version. All right, and now we're on quickly to the bonus material.
Yes,
that
I think this
I'm-
is the best part of this release.
Well, it's the most
Along with
exciting. Then
Portsmouth.
yeah. It just, I mean, I love the remix of the main album because it sounds so strong. But even though it's a first perspective, we know the songs exactly as they are. So getting alternate takes and a couple of additional tracks, first of all, makes me wonder what else is lying in the tapes that they converted to digital. And yeah, for example, I don't know. I don't think that they planned on recording Train Kept a Rolling, but it sounds like they were there in the studio and Joe was like, hey, I want to play Train. And they just went through it. And I think the instrumental party, they nailed it. And if they had been able to do a couple of overdubs of Steven vocals, it could have been an awesome B-side to the
It's a
the
lot
album.
slower than the version which they play live.
yeah. Great tone.
On a train, I'm
You know what? In the remix version, I think it's way easier for me to understand what Steven is actually saying in Train and in Walking the Dog. Funny thing. Something that I love is this cool guitar sound that Joe gets at the very end that I don't know
The
how.
surf guitar sound.
That sound.
Yeah. It's heaps of reverb and then
Yeah, but
on
it's
the whammy bar.
it's something that they're both doing together. It's
That-
Joe
yeah.
and Brad
With-
both
and it's
with
something
different
that I've
effects.
never heard Joe or Brad do before
Yeah,
on
and
anything.
and it's
live,
here
studio,
in
on their
Train.
other albums. Yeah.
And Jonah the Hip, the similar kind of guitar effect. Yeah, I
Very
thought it
cool.
was
So
very
guitar
cool,
sound,
very
yeah.
interesting, new, fresh, very clean.
Beach Boys sound.
You think? Yeah.
Oh,
And I
yeah,
love
yeah.
that they do the version. They play the ending how they play it live. Well done. Then I guess the last two that we need to talk about is harmonica bass, harmonica bass, jam
Jam
jelly.
Jelly Jam.
Yeah, session take, and it's very interesting.
It's
Quite an
okay.
experiment, like an improvisation.
I mean, it's just
It's an impro. It's a jam.
yeah. Yeah.
It starts very echoey and then it gets dry. And I think because it's described as a conversation between Tom and Steven, and I think you can tell halfway through because they're probably looking at each other at the studio, Steven playing the harp and Tom playing the bass, and halfway through it they change the tempo. They are going pretty fast, and then suddenly they change the tempo. Let me try to find it. It could be jazzy. Over here they change it. Oh, really. Slower. Anyway, so very interesting experiment. I don't know what they were thinking. Maybe it was just
Dominates it very nicely.
I know, but it just because there's one of the jackets of the vinyls, and you can see a whole song section with multiple bass, harmonica, harmonica, harmonica. Why would you need a song with only bass tracks and harmonica ones? So my guess is that they were just measuring levels maybe in the studio, and they were like, okay, just play something, and they were doing that. Otherwise, I don't know. My other theory is that they probably had different takes of just bass and harmonica. So maybe this is a single take, or maybe it's just a composition of different takes that they put together. I don't know. It's an interesting thing. It's nothing that is super remarkable, but an interesting thing.
For me, the join at the hip was the best thing.
I agree. I think it starts so fresh and happy and feel good. It sounds like a happy hippie rock and roll from the 60s, 70s.
To me, the intro sounds like a permanent vacation.
You think? I'm not sure it sounds...
I mean, just that feeling of being on holiday.
Yeah, because it sounds so happy.
Major chords.
Yeah.
It's not something you normally hear from Joe.
It's like, let's go.
It's like a little grass shack on the ukulele.
Not quite. Here we go! Not quite. I think it's such a cool jam, and I've been listening to this all week, time and time again.
Two major things which come from this track, or which is evidenced in this track, is one, Aerosmith has the tightest rhythm section.
Yeah.
And also, it goes to show how much Joey makes the Aerosmith sound. Because as soon as you hear Joey on the drums, it's like, this sounds like Aerosmith. You don't need Steven, you don't need Joe. Just Joey alone.
You need the five of them.
Can make it sound like Aerosmith.
He adds so much to the sound and the groove. And what was I going to say, man?
And the other thing I was going to say is that you can see so many ideas which turned into later songs. The harmonica, right at the start when Steven starts to play it, you know that, I mean, Steven reuses a lot of his harmonica licks, but this is very clearly the sort of stuff that he played on Hangman Jury. And I mean, not only do they play the that riff from Sweet Emotion, but I think that the first riff that comes after the intro, it's the Sweet Emotion riff. Just the notes are in different order. And again, if you read the Walk This Way autobiography, Steven says that Tom was playing the Sweet Emotion riff, but he was playing the notes in the wrong order, and I just got him to rearrange them in the right order.
I think
and I don't know if it was this as well, what, but to me it sounds a lot like.
I mean, it's definitely in A. You know what? Because the intro starts in D, so D, and it's like. Or something like that. And then the rest of the. It's in A minor.
Yeah.
And Sweet Emotion, of course, is in A. No? But I think Tom brought the intro riff for Sweet Emotion, and but I think it was in E, so it would have been like.
That's where the song goes right at the end in the outro.
It is, you know. So apparently he gave the riff, and then Steven and Joe kind of rearranged it and played it with the band the last day on the studio, and they moved it to A. So, anyways, but I think it's great, and they're playing with each other. Is what I was thinking, and everyone is very much locked into the rhythm, because even everyone is locked into the rhythm, all the band members, because later in the jam, even what would be the verses that are very rhythmic without any solos are very hard to play, I think, you know, because I've been for a week trying to figure it out, at least the rhythm, and listen to the drums, you know.
And you know that the band will have awesome eye contact, and they know when to stop, when to start, when the hooks come in. And
but this section here is
the drum This is like, you know, in Love in an Elevator.
Anyways, something like that. Very, very cool. And I think the instruments sound really, really nice and crisp. And I like how it has so many different sections. You know, we have the very happy hippie intro, which gets played in the intro and never again. And then you have the jamming sections, and then we have this faster bass part.
This sounds like, you know, like the end of Rats in the Cellar.
Yes, but it's also very spacey because we have drums and bass, and then Brad is doing some fading, and then Joe is doing some open chords. Back to E, no, D. This is actually similar to what they do in Lord of the Thighs.
Maybe, yeah.
And the panning is going through.
And this sounds like Walk This Way.
That's basically exactly the same beat without the hi-hat, without the boom, boom, bam. But it's basically there, you know, and there's been a big dispute, and there's even a book that was written
about... They came up with the thing?
No, there's a book about the history around the remix with Run DMC, and they go back in
Okay.
time or from the original song, and they do interviews with both Joey and Steven. Of course, Steven is like, "No, I came out with it," and Joey's like, "No, fuck that, it was me." Then we have Jack Douglas, who is like, "No, Joey played it, but Steven came out with it, but Joey added the hi hat." So
Yeah.
this at least points to me like he was already in Joey's mind.
I
and he
can
was,
hear Joey playing it.
that's definitely that from 1972.
We never heard Steven playing it.
Well, apparently it was during a sound check in Maui or something. So who knows?
That's when Joe supposedly came up with the riff.
Mm.
I mean, just we aren't talking about Walk This Way, but I have to say everyone knows that riff. But those of us who've learned how to play the song know that the riff during the verse is the
Yeah.
one that's actually
Oh,
difficult to play.
yeah.
So hard to play. So hard to play standing up. And Joe just does it.
Anyway, yeah, I still struggle with it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of there. Okay, we have
hard
1.5 minutes. Let's just go all the way to the end.
It's very unexpected that they'll start again like that.
Yeah, that could have been the ending of the song, and then it's like, actually, we're back again. You know, now that I'm listening to whatever Joe is playing on the right, it sounds like the very end of no, it sounds like girls keep coming apart. Ding, 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 like the verses. Ding, 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 ding.
I don't think Joe likes that song.
You don't think anyone in the band likes?
No, I don't think Joe likes that song because he's gone on record and said that there's some songs on that album that we just put on there because we could and we never play them live. They're just like, in his words, dead wood.
Well, I think it's a good song. It's not the most popular one. Maybe they played it once a couple of times, but I don't
think
know.
the song that's actually really good
Yeah.
is Hearts Done Time.
Fucking, that's great, man. Yeah, that's such
Yeah.
a great opener and a good
Yeah,
rocker, especially the intro. But
And Magic Touch also is good.
yeah, but very unlike Aerosmith in a way. But I like it. But Girls keeps coming apart. There's a bunch of demos and sessions that have been leaked, and in there you can see how much time they spent working on that and kind of
I think
developing
it's
the
one of the
riff.
songs that
Like the band was
wasn't a
figuring
natural
out.
song.
Yeah, and also that last verse that Steven does at the end is like unfinished lyrics in a way, you know, because he goes, so there I was, bam up, and he kneeling, I was dealing with it,
Wheeling.
with the villains, an ace in a hole, sort of being, tiki tiki tiki. So then he kind of ran out of words to say.
The best. I think that's the
It's
best
a funny
part of the
line,
song.
but it does. It's like I don't have anything else to say in the verses. Let's just drop that line in as a spoken lyric.
He said it in a few more places. He says exactly those same words
Where?
in the making of Pump. If you see the interviews of making
Oh
of Pump,
man,
he
yeah,
uses
yeah,
those
but not in a
exact same
song.
lines.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
All right, let's finish this song. That was great. You know, I'm sure that they were so surprised to find this again. I can,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they would have heard it in the last, whatever,
yeah,
60 years?
yeah,
60 years,
and
50 years?
I can tell that they, because it's such a cool jam, that they put an extra little bit of effort into mixing it well, because it's just worth it, you know. And I can already see and hear this song included in as background music for a documentary or a movie or something. It works. It works. I think very strong jamming. It it shows the potential, not the potential, the power of the musicianships of all the members. I think, and just overall a
The
great
power of
fun.
practice and
Well,
rehearsal.
indeed, the more I'm
Yeah.
trying to practice myself, I can tell that the only way through to get where you want to go is by
The only
practicing
way
and
out is
practice.
through.
I like that, you know, dream on the only way through is the only way out is through. You need to face your problems. You need to face everything that is challenging and push through, practice everything that you need to make it, because make it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this was
I
fun,
think
man.
Aerosmith in hindsight, they did make it. They really did
Absolutely.
make it.
And I'm sure that they're still working on a final goodbye, because of course they had this comeback with one more time that hopefully we'll get to review. And
We want
we got
another last goodbye one more time.
yes, yes, a proper full band album or single. And I think they need a final proper live goodbye, because in a way it was an accident and whatever happened, but they were stolen of the opportunity of ending their life careers in their own terms. And so I have to think that they are desiring to have at least one final show. And I'm sure you and I will be more than happy to be there if it happens.
Yes,
Fingers crossed.
for sure.
But thank you very much for being here and spending the time, Uma, my friend.
Cheers, man.
Cheers for more Aerosmith music, more covers, and more of this kind of conversation with you and other friends who are happy to join. Good evening, people.
Good evening, people. Good night, people. That's the end of the show. Yeah, make it. Woohoo!
Don't break it. Thank you. We'll see you
Do
next
it,
time
the
whenever we need
remaster
to
of
talk about
Get the
Aerosmith, news, rumors,
Coming
speculations,
soon.
demos.
Summer
Yeah,
2026.
yeah. Hopefully they're coming
Heard it
soon.
here first.
Cheers, guys, and thank you, Aerosmith. Thank you, Steven, Joe, Brad, Tom, Joey, and the producers and the amazing Aerosmith management team. Thank you for the album.
And most importantly, thanks Zach Cervini and Julian Gargiulo for mixing this amazing record.
I'm producing this amazing remix. It's been a pleasure to listen and
Thank you
and
for
cover
giving this
these
to us,
hidden
truly. We
gems
didn't expect
on the
anything.
B-sides. We're so happy that we got a little bit extra Aerosmith in 2026 when we already got more than we thought that we deserved in 2025. So thank you, and here's to hoping that there's even more coming with these amazing legendary editions. But until we get some
Arrivederci.
more, thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Arrivederci.
Bye-bye. Arrivederci. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you, man. See you
very
next time.